fica bloqueio, cada grupo bem, altas câmaras e amas nela da bem.
This is how we felt after building the foundation of a frame house. It seemed that half the work was already done. It turns out that just as much, and maybe even more trouble is still to come. Getting timber in the middle of summer was a real challenge. All the sawmills around our town refused to fulfill the lumber order. Everything was sold out in advance. Fortunately for us, a friend who sells wood turned up and was able to get us the right amount of boards. And they were delivered by special transport directly to our homestead. Almost all professional home builders build modern frame homes with graded and calibrated C24 lumber. However, the wood we managed to get was wet. This meant that once it was received it would have to be stored under cover from the rain, dried in the sun and waited for it to start. After one consultation with a smart person, we got advice that we don't need to wait very long for the wood to dry. The frame can be assembled now. As it dries, the wood will not deform so much that it distorts the geometry of the frame. It just dries stably already assembled in the frame. Therefore, after carefully arranging the wooden boards, we decided to dry them at least for a few weeks in the hot sun day. Thanks again to Julius, who helped to carry heavy things during the construction of the house more than once. Timber is ready for a short drying while we go to rest by the sea with the family. There are so many thoughts about how to build the walls, maybe something will not work. As expected. Work begins as always with measurement. Simple principle drawings with basic dimensions are printed. The uprights are cut to the same length. Everything is assembled horizontally. Such work is much easier, more accurate, without distorting the frame structure. It is convenient to screw in a screw everywhere without having to climb up the ladder anywhere. Things are going really well. The straightness of each board is measured by eye, judging where any curvature will interfere least. Not every board deserves to be a strut. Here you can see the assembly area for the living room window. As we mentioned before, it is much easier to collect everything on the ground. The gaps between the pillars and the gaps between the windows are easy to fit. It is easy to screw the merlet. The wall of the living room is ready to be fixed with screws. Unfortunately, since we were two people raising the first wall, and the work was insanely difficult, we didn't have anyone to film it all. The cameraman would sometimes return only for lunch and run back to his friends in the village. The work continues by fastening the wall to the base using screws with large heads. Support boards helped to keep the wall vertical until the walls were tightened. While one of the walls is being raised, the others are already being assembled on the base. It's hard to count how many total boxes of screws were used to build this house. However, new generation Scandinavian-esque screws were purchased for the most important works. The roof angle of the house was not provided in the drawings. In fact, it was chosen by changing the height of the details live and seeing how it looks the most pleasing to the eye. Most of the joints were improvised and the drawings were only for basic dimensions. On such hot days, it was difficult not to overheat the Makita cordless screwdriver. Breaks were taken to ventilate the screwdriver's motor by simply blowing through it at idle. Finally, there comes a time when some jobs cannot be done by yourself. We realized this especially when the two of us were building the first wall of the living room. It was insanely difficult to lift the newly constructed wall frame. The strongest and most loyal friends rushed to help. The constructed wall had to be raised not only on one side, but also slightly brought to the place where it will be fastened to the base. Doing all this on the four of us seemed ridiculous. We tried to prepare everything in advance before our friends arrived. We cut down the tree branches that the walls can lean on. We prepared support boards that needed to be screwed to the walls that were built vertically but not tightened. My friends and I raised two walls, one of which was particularly heavy. Only after raising these wall structures did we realize how tall the house was going to be. And all this was due to the glass units, which we bought very cheaply at the window market. According to the original project, the house was only supposed to be 2.5 meters high. Now it is a meter higher. Even 3.5 meters. You can see the Eurovision star sweeping the foundation of our house so that the walls are fastened to the foundation without any gaps. All the people who worked on our house deserve to be included in the honor board, which will be pinned inside our cabin. The video shows the middle wall of the house, part of which goes inside the house. It is not very heavy, but a large enough wall of 5 meters long to support a pitched roof. It's time to work on windows with double-glazed windows. The glass in the window cavity is measured. Everything seems fine. For the first time, you can visually perceive the real size of the house, which you could only imagine or try to understand from the drawings. Enthusiasm does not fade and appetite increases. One wall frame is produced per day. Other walls are being prepared. An understood principle of assembling walls speeds up the work. Before realizing that the frame structure of the windows would have to be done with large wooden dowels. The same structure was previously tightened with screws. Every summer evening is dedicated to coming to the homestead and working on assembling the wall frame. Elevation works also begin. By screwing in details that were not fastened while the wall was lying on the base. Never mind. It can always be fixed. Although the summer nights in Lithuania are short and there is light for quite a long time, work should be done quietly in order not to wake up the neighbors. Sometimes we sat by the house long enough and did not feel that night was coming. And after all, you wanted to do as much as possible in a day. Prefab wall for our daughter's room. It will have an opening window that will let in the evening Sunday. Moving a wall of such a modest size in two was no longer so difficult. The most important thing is not to let go of the wall so that it does not fall on us. There is no string element in our roof construction, so the rafters are connected and supported by a 3-meter-long glued pine beam. To lift such a heavy balk to a height of 3.5 meters, we used ropes that we pulled from below, thus lifting the balk to the top. A single template was used to make the rafter for each side of the roof and was carefully measured. 6 rafters were calculated for each roof slope. All of them are cut together and ready to be attached to the beams. No nails were used to fasten the rafters, but we used the latest generation of ESP Scandinavian wood screws. The roof rafters were installed in just a few days. The complexity of the work was that it had to be done only on a folding ladder and without scaffolding. It was interesting to psychologically feel the space of the room and its size as soon as the wall and roof frame was assembled. For the rafters, 15 centimeters wide and 5 centimeters thick boards were chosen, placed every 60 centimeters. A kind of joy fills you when you realize that everything is going well. Unexpectedly, the summer ends, and the frame of the walls and roof of the house sprouted only at the end of August. Then it seemed that almost everything was done and you could breathe. Maybe even leave the frame of the house covered with films for the winter. There seemed to be no rush, because we were enjoying the construction of the house. We enjoy working with wood. In our free time from work, we cooked food on the fire and did other garden work. It was even hard to realize that summer is over, and the house needs exterior siding, diffusion film, insulation wall, and roof covering. But about that in our next series. Don't forget to follow us on Facebook, like and share this video, thus helping our channel to become popular. See you soon.